Round 11 of the 1994 FF1M Championship, and we are in southern Portugal, more specifically the Grande Premio de Portugal, the Circuito do Estoril circuit, located somewhere near the capital. And 1994 is a season that will go down in history as one of sheer dominance from Ayrton Senna in the form of his career, and it'll be his last season because after 1994 he'll be retiring. Probably going fishing, I think, with Sid Watkins. Or maybe just helping out in the FF1M world in general. Here's a look at the Estoril circuit, and it's the 1984 to 1993 variant that we're using, with a fast first couple of corners, then a hairpin of turn 3, then curve of VIP turn 4 before the back straight, with a kink in the middle before parabolica interior, a left which opens up at the exit, a short straight into Orella, and then into the gancho S's, and then the parabolica, which signifies the end of the lap. Here's a look at the grid, and for the 10th time out of 11 efforts, Ayrton Senna is on pole position for Gajera Autosport. He's already crowned champion. We'll get more on that in a moment, but for the moment, it's his teammate Eric Comas alongside on the front row. Nigel Mansell, the only other pole sitter this season, he took that at the French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours. He starts third ahead of Olivier Panis in the CBA Racing. Then we've got Pierluigi Martini up in 5th in the Andrew Racing, and Andrews have tended to show quite well in the race, so he could be a dark horse. Alongside Martini is Jean Alesi. Eddie Irvine is 7th ahead of Gianni Morbidelli 8th. Morbidelli winner of the Monaco Grand Prix early this season. Knights Harold Frentzen in the other FJR is 9th ahead of Rubens Barrichello in 10th. Barrichello won last time out at Monza. David Coulthard starts 11th for the Tornado ahead of Gerhard Berger 12th. Damon Hill 13th ahead of Michael Schumacher. Bandit of the season in 14th place. Mika Hakkinen will be starting 15th for Willows Racing, the highest of the Mugen Honda runners. Mark Blundell 16th in the Goomba Yamaha. The other Goomba 17th, Gabriele Tarquini, and Johnny Herbert will be starting 18th. He's not last for a change. Martin Brundle in the other Willows will be starting 19th ahead of Roland Ratzenberger in the Mitchell 20th. And in the back row, Taki Yanui in the Shake and Bake and Jos Verstappen in the other Tilsley. The last time out at Monza, we witnessed the usual mayhem in the opening laps. Ayrton Senna was taken out by Nigel Mansell at the Rettifio chicane, and that put Gianni Morbidelli into the lead of the race. More mayhem ensued, which included Gerhard Berger absolutely sending Alesi into oblivion at Ascari, and then Michael Schumacher killing two birds with one stone in the form of Frentzen and Hakkinen. And then Gerhard Berger finally finished his race off when he locked up his rear axle and spun into the path of Eddie Irvine. That was at the Parabolica. Unfortunately for Morbidelli, his engine failed around mid-distance, which put Comas in the lead for a bit, but he couldn't hold off the charging Rubens Barrichello, who aggressively defended his position from Ayrton Senna, and then a later pit stop allowed him to get fresher tyres, and he was flying in that second stint. Overtook Comas, and then won the race. Speaking of race, we're about to begin this one at Estoril, part of an Iberian double header. It's Ayrton Senna on the outside line, Eric Comas on the left, red light is on, and the green light goes on. And let's see who gets away best. It's a decent enough start from Senna as he holds on to the lead from Comas. Panis making advances. Alesi looks to have dropped back a bit, but into the first corner, Martini's made a flyer, but it's Senna leads from Comas. Martini up into third ahead of Mansell, Panis and Morbidelli. And further back, the two Tornadoes are next up. And through turn number 3. As we see further back, everyone has gotten through the first couple of corners safely. So onto the back straight, and it's Senna ahead of Comas, but Comas is under pressure from Martini. I think the expected Andrew race pace is already showing itself. He's having a look down the outside into the parabolica interior. It's the inside line which is always the best one there, and you can see Martini has lost a lot of time. And now coming under a bit of pressure from Mansell. Martini got his first podium at Magny-Cours with a fine drive to second, using his two-stop strategy well. Ayrton Senna won that particular race with Mansell pole sitter, finishing third in that particular meeting. As we round the Parabolica itself, and completing the first lap, it's Senna from Comas. Then it's Martini, then Mansell. Mansell has got Panis all over his gearbox, and Panis jinking out of the slipstream, looking to make a move on Mansell. And in fact, these two had a cracking battle in the closing laps, which Mansell won out by a couple of hundredths of a second, but for the moment it's Olivier Panis who wins out that particular battle, as Panis looks to extend his wins tally, having won the Canadian Grand Prix, looking for 2 wins this season for CBA. Jos Verstappen is not in last place now. That honour's now gone to Gabriele Tarquini. Let's see, Martini not as far back this time. Well, not under place to make a move on Comas at the moment. Is anybody making moves? Well, there's an outside run for Damon Hill on Mika Hakkinen. Hakkinen holding on to that, and Hill now coming under pressure from Gerhard Berger. In fact, Hill's lost a lot of time. He's dropped behind Berger and Schumacher. As we go through Gancho, this is pre-chicane, pre-corkscrew. Mansell is coming under pressure from Gianni Morbidelli. Mansell's tended to run heavier fuel in the opening stages, and it's certainly not running good in the races that have happened. And in the early stages at least, it looks as if he's not on the pace once again. Morbidelli's already passed. Now Martini has taken second place from Eric Comas at the start of lap 3. And further back we're going to see, there it is, Morbidelli ahead of Mansell. Let's check the fuel load. So there's 16 or so laps that Morbidelli has got on board. How many laps of fuel has Mansell got on board? As he is going to come under pressure. Panis is quite heavy on fuel. He's got 25 laps. Mansell is also heavy. So I think we're going to be seeing a mixture of 2 and 3 stops for this race. And certainly the 3 stoppers will be looking to pull away in the early stages or make use out of that low fuel load in order to gain track position as fast as they can before making their first pit stop. See further back behind Jean Lacey in 7th, it's the 2 Tornadoes. Then it's Frentzen in the other FJR. So Frentzen, he's tended to make bad starts this season, dropping positions, and he certainly on this opening phase, he's dropped a place to David Coulthard. It's Coulthard in 9th at the moment behind teammates Irvine, but here comes a Lacey, lighter on fuel than Mansell, and good launch out of the Parabolica. Side by side. Is he going to have enough to go to the outside of the first corner? Not quite, but he's still taken 6th place anyway. And I think Coulthard has just taken Eddie Irvine for, that would be 8th place. Indeed he has. So Coulthard now the lead of the 2 Tornadoes. And Coulthard getting a bit of form as the season's gone along, but Monza wasn't a particularly good meeting for the 2 Tornadoes. Irvine being taken out by Berger, and Coulthard finishing down in 8th behind Hill and Ratzenberger, who finished 6th and 7th. Let's go through some of the season winners so far, because we've had 10 races on round 11. First round at Brazil was won by Ayrton Senna. A tremendously popular victory for the popular Sao Paulo native. And in fact, there were 2 Brazilians on the podium, 2 Sao Paulo natives on the podium, because Rubens Barrichello was 3rd. Sandwiching the 2 was Gianni Morbidelli. Enjoying a nice season with Andrew, although the Andrew has been quite unreliable of late. Twice in a row they've had double retirements. Briefly back to the action, because Lacey is making a move on Morbidelli into the first corner, and he's got 5th, so now got 2 CBA racings in the top 5. Round 2 took place at the Pacific Grand Prix, first ever Pacific Grand Prix in Cannon, and the first ever race that took place at the TI AIDA circuit, and that was won by the Tornado of Eddie Irvine, using his 2-stop strategy well, while most of the field made just the 1. By the way, Coulthard has passed Mansell for 7th place, as Jean Lacey struggles to keep his car in check on the straight. Mansell coming under pressure from Irvine. So Mansell will be losing a place soon. Round 3, that was Monaco, and uncharacteristically a poor race for Senna because he crashed out of the lead. 2 seasons in a row he's done that. He did it at Portier in 93. In 94 he did it at the exit of the swimming pool. And Gianni Morbidelli won that particular particular race. Then Spain, the Spanish Grand Prix Round 4, taking place at the Catalunya circuit, and the fourth different winner from 4 different teams and 4 different engines, because Mansell won that one. Fair and square, he beat Ayrton Senna in a pit strategy battle. Stayed out a couple of laps longer, and that was enough to jump in for the lead. By the way, Morbidelli retaking 5th off of Jean Lacey down the main straight at the start of lap 6. And both 3 stopping by the looks of it. So they need to make that one count. They've been held up probably a little bit by Olivier Panis, but Panis on that 2-stop strategy looking pretty good. Wonder what sort of strategy that Senna, Martini and Comas are running. By the way, Gerhard Berger now pressuring Mansell for 9th place now. Frentzen down to 11th, so I think Berger must have overtaken him at some point. Round 5, that took place in Canada, the Canadian Grand Prix, and that was won a 5th different winner from 5 different teams, but still 4 engines, because that was Olivier Panis in the CBA Racing on that particular one. And since then, it's been pretty much all about Ayrton Senna. 4 wins in a row from Magny-Cours, Silverstone, Hockenheim and Spa, and another 2nd place at Monza, which secured him the Drivers' Championship. His 4th of his career, his 4th recorded championship, and we've got Senna! Senna has spun off at the first corner, and has he damaged his wing as well? I think he must have done, because his pit indicator's on, so Senna, a rare mistake from the race lead. Does he get a bit wide at the first corner? Yes, he does, and Klaus, he's out! Senna out of the race. Well, he's the champion, so it doesn't matter too much, but if the CBAs are going well, then that will hurt Gajera's Teams Championships chances. So, I was about to say as well that Senna has got a pretty good record around Estoril, won in 91 and 1993. He's not going to win in 1994. So, Pierluigi Martini now takes the lead of the race. He's on a 3-stop strategy, and we know that Panis is 2-stopping because he has got about 9 more laps fuel compared to Martini. I didn't quite catch how much fuel that Comas had. We'll find out shortly. Alesi's retaken 4th off of Morbidelli. I think Morbidelli tried to do something about Panis in the parabolic interior, but running wide meant that Alesi took advantage, and now 2 CBAs in the top 4 once again. CBA Racing, reigning teams champion and reigning drivers champion as well, in the form of Alessandro Zanardi, who's not here. Zanardi not on the grid this season. He's moved over to America in order to compete in the Fantasy Auto Racing Teams Championship. If you acronym that, then you might have a little chuckle. Lacey Morbidelli, that's not over yet. Lacey not pulling away from Gianni Morbidelli. Oh, we got another crasher at turn 1. Who's gone off this time?
Watch out for debris.
It's Rubens Barrichello in the Pedersen. He's another crasher at turn 1. That is a hot spot. See loads and loads of crashes there. So you can see Barrichello under pressure from Schumacher, and Schumacher got by this time with no contact. Instead, it was Rubens who went flying off the circuit on the marbles, and the Monza winner out. Oh, be careful of that tyre, Johnny Herbert. He's managed to avoid that. I think, hopefully, everybody else is avoiding that errant wheel. There goes Tarquini. There goes Blundell. Yep, that's fine. Yep, turn 1 is notorious in FF1M. A particular example, 1991. That saw a very, very controversial incident between the 2 tornadoes. Michael Schumacher was running 2nd at the time, and his teammate, who was Michele Alboreto, was a lap down, but on fresher tyres, trying to unlap himself. He collided with Michael, and Michael went flying into the barriers, rear wing first, and that was basically the end of his championship. And Schumacher actually spent about 6 to 7 laps in the gravel trap on the radio to his team, basically telling Tornado to fire Alboreto, which they did. On board with Gianni Morbidelli, 5th place Morbidelli. Andrew do desperately need some reliability if they're going to reignite their challenge for runner-up spot in the Teams Championship. Teams Championship not decided yet. It is still open, but not as open as you might think. I'll check the gap actually, because it is Gajera who are leading the Teams Championship. largely thanks to Ayrton Senna's points haul. But Comas has been getting it together. He did get a podium last time out at Monza, and my pick of driver of the day, actually, because it was his first ever podium. Gera, they're on 78 points at the moment, and they hold a 35-point lead over CBA Racing. Pedersen are third in the championship with 37, ahead of Andrew Racing 30, Tornado 5th with 24, then FJR 6th with 21. And only Mansell has scored with FJR's points. Frentzen has not had a particularly good season. A bit unlucky in places, but generally off the pace. Now, this is going to be a key move because Jean Lacey, alongside Olivier Panis into the first corner, takes that third place. So, a little bit of team tactics going on there. Where's Morbidelli gone? Is Morbidelli... Well, he's slowed a little bit. I wonder what happened to Morbidelli there. Let's see. So, through the first corner, missing the apex, running right onto the curb, but just about holding that one. So, Morbidelli's race slightly hampered as the two Tornadoes are coming up to him. And both Tornadoes are quite lightly fueled as well. So 3 stops for the two Tornadoes, and then behind Eddie Irvine that is Gerhard Berger in the sole remaining Pedersen now. Behind Berger, it's Schumacher, who has made his way past both FJRs. Wonder if both FJRs are heavily fueled. Mansell definitely is. Frentzen, I wonder what sort of fuel load Frentzen is running. If it 1/7 distance, Frentzen 15 laps, that's sort of nowhere. It's either 2 or 3 stops. Definitely 2 stops for Mansell, and Schumacher, though, was running a bit wide there at the Orella curve. Struggling a little bit with the handling of his car. Imagine pushing quite hard to try and catch up to the queue behind Morbidelli. Jean Lacey, 5.2 seconds. Lacey not won a race this season, but he has been pretty consistent. He's had 3 podiums, 3 second places. They came at Aida, Silverstone and Spa. And then his other points, 3 sixth places. And they were at Interlagos, Monaco and Hockenheim. Some of the other podium finishes, Pacific, Aida, Lacey and Senna, second and third. Monaco, that was Gerhard Berger and Roland Ratzenberger getting a podium finish for 2 Austrians, 2 Frank Berger on the podium. Spain, that was Mansell, Senna and Panis in that order, and Canada was Panis, Senna, Mansell in that order. And Magny-Cours, that was Senna, Martini and Mansell in that order. Silverstone, Senna, Lacey and Schumacher getting a podium finish. Shake and Bake's been pretty quick in race trim, but not having work support from their Mercedes engines has hurt them quite a bit, actually. I've heard as well that team boss Courtney Cass has not done very well in the quizzes either. All will be revealed later on, at the end of the season. More with Berger as he now challenges Irvine. And actually, talking of Schumacher, new fastest lap. Through goes Gerhard Berger ahead of Eddie Irvine. Next target is David Coulthard, though. Berger 1 place away from the points. So we did Silverstone, now it's Hockenheim. That was Senna, Berger and Hill. Damon Hill getting his one and only podium of the finish so far. That was a good drive from Hill, actually. I think he was 17th on the grid then. And Spa, it was Senna, Lacey and Irvine. Irvine taking his second podium of the season then. And then Monza, the last race, that was Barrichello, Senna and Comas. That's basically the summary of the season so far. Count the podium sitters, I think it's been 13 different drivers on the podium this season, which is pretty good record, but aside from Senna, no driver has particularly had good rhythm or good consistent form, because Senna has 50-point gap over Olivier Panis. That's the state of the Drivers' Championship so far. Let's have a look at this, because Lacey now challenging Comas for second into the first corner. And in fact, 2 seasons ago in 1992, Jean Lacey was looking good for a victory with Tornado at that point, but crashed out at the first corner, and that briefly put Prost into the lead. Then he suffered mechanical problems, then Schumacher into the lead before he crashed out, having seen the winning post a bit too soon. That race was won by Thierry Boutsen, his one and only win. What was a good season for him with the Willows team. Yeah, the Drivers' Championship, 2nd through to 8th, they're only separated by 5 points, so the runners-up spot is very, very much up for grabs. At the moment, it is held by Panis on 22 points, then Morbidelli, Mansell and Lacey on 21 points. Gerhard Berger 20, Irvine 19, Barrichello. We've got somebody had a spin at the. Oh, who is it? It's Irvine, Eddie Irvine with mechanical problems. Now, I'm just about to say that Portugal has never been a kind circuit for Tornado, and there is another reason why. There's no luck at all for Tornado at this circuit. Suspension failure for Eddie Irvine. So they crane his car away. Gerhard Berger's now up into the points. It just goes from bad to slightly bad. More bad than that because Berger in points in 6th place. Oh, somebody's off at the first corner. That doesn't look good for FJR, but they're fine. It's Damon Hill. Damon Hill, now the latest one to crash out at the first notorious corner. Missing the apex, onto the marbles, into the gravel, boom, into the barriers. 2 wheels off, so going one better than Senna and Barrichello. Johnny Herbert will move up into that 12th place. In fact, last season, Johnny Herbert could have won at Estoril, but had a spin at the exit of Gancho, the fast right, before the S's and Parabolica, and had to replace his front wing. So, unfortunate moment there for Herbert. As we look at David Coulthard, looking at Gerhard Berger's 6th place, but Berger, having just passed Coulthard, may be able to pull away. Behind Coulthard is Schumacher in the shake and bake. And behind Schumacher, who's next up? I think it's the 2 FJRs. Down in the Parabolica, it is still Martini leading, and it is indeed Schumacher 8th, Mansell 9th, Frentzen 10th, Hacken and Herbert 11th and 12th. It's through the first corner. Yellow flags, but those are old yellow flags. The marshals a bit cautious in removing them, it seems. Through turn 3 goes Gerhard Berger, and now Michael Schumacher catching up to the Austrian and the Scot right in front of him. It's Roland Ratzenberger 13th ahead. Oh, Ratzenberger is now 12th because he's just overtaken Johnny Herbert for that very position. Let's have a look at the Austrian who got that podium at Monaco, which was a very well-earned result. And behind the battling Ratzenberger and Herbert are the battling Taki Inui and Jos Verstappen. And it's Martin Brundle 16th, and then Tarquini 17th and Blundell in 18th. 4 retirements so far, and Eddie Irvine, Damon Hill, Eddie Irvine, Rubens Barrichello and Ayrton Senna crashed out from the race lead. Wonder what Gajera's reaction to that has been. Well, he's absent from the chat so far, but surely we'll hear from him at some point, as into the pits comes race leader Pierluigi Martini. So Comas is going to move into the lead of the race. This is pretty early, so he's definitely 3-stopping. 23 laps of fuel going on board the Andrew. That should probably take him probably to half distance, I'd say. He rejoins in 10th place behind the 2 FJRs. So Jean Lacey now leads, but he may be coming into the pits soon. Eric Comas 2nd, and Olivier Panis 3rd. Michael Schumacher coming into the pits at the end of this lap. I think once we may be seeing Panis into the lead soon, because I'm pretty sure he is 2-stopping. You can see a blimp in the distance. That's getting a nice view of the circuit. Schumacher is right at the back of David Coulthard. Yeah, Berger's pulled away a little bit from the Scot and is in fact catching up to Panis and Morbidelli. So Panis reassuming his role as slight traffic jam. Morbidelli is coming into the pits at the end of this lap though. Now we usually see that Estoril has very high tyre wear and that new tyres are pretty effective here. Alesi into the pits, so Alesi making his first of 3 stops. As is Morbidelli, as is Berger. Battle of the pit crews between the Andrew and the Pedersen, and the advantage would lie with Pedersen because having the early pit box means that you can jump the drivers in front, as out of the pits comes John Lacey. Where's he rejoining in relation to Martini? Oh, in fact, Berger being held up by Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's a great stop, actually, because he's now got ahead of Gerhard Berger. So Schumacher making some great gains in the pit stop sequence. At the moment, it is Eric Comas leading the race. How much fuel has Comas got? Well, there's Frentzen in 5th place. And he's got Martini behind him. So Martini 1.3 seconds behind Heinz Harald. Comas not planning to pit just yet, so he is going to lead for a couple of laps before making his first pit stop. Will he be 2-stopping or 3-stopping? I should imagine 3 stops, but we'll see what the Gajera mechanics give him. But going through for another lap goes Eric Comas, and he's not planning to pit at the end of this lap either, so Comas going slightly longer than Martini. Now is Martini catching up to Frentzen in 5th place. Both FJRs carrying on, and Martini is indeed catching Frentzen. In fact, he's going to get up alongside her into the first corner, and up to 5th place goes Pierluigi Martini. So now he's in an FJR sandwich. Next target for the Italian is Nigel Mansell. Mansell in 4th, and pretty sure definitely 2-stopping. So that could give him track position in course once the 3-stoppers make their second pit stops, but how well will Mansell's tyres be performing towards the end of the race? Who knows? As mentioned, Estoril does have pretty high tyre wear, thanks to its unusually abrasive surface. Quite porous surface, actually, gives you good grip. It also wears the tyres out pretty quickly. We're going to see anybody else pitting at the end of lap 18. Well, at the end of lap 17, it's Jos Verstappen coming into the pits. As Comas leads for another lap, as does Panis in 2nd, as does Coulthard in 3rd. And Mansell carrying on in 4th place, but he's got a charging Martini, who is pretty quick at this stage of the race. Top speed going into the first corner, 308 kilometres an hour, so pretty good from the customer-powered Andrew, as Michael Schumacher sets the new fastest lap at 1 minute 10.956. Return 3 goes Martini. And then that was Mika Hakkinen, I think, about to come into the pits at the end of this lap. The 19th lap, Taki Inui into the pits. In the other shake and bake, Inui had an impressive Spanish Grand Prix, actually. He had a 4th place on merit as well. He had a pretty good race, I have to say. Won the Driver of the Day award. Frentzen coming into the pits at the end of this lap. He's going to be taking on some new tyres. And Frentzen, one of 6 drivers yet to score a point. Considering Mansell has got 21 points, including 3 podium finishes and a race win, it doesn't bode well for Frentzen, really. Comas into the pits, race leader Eric Comas into the pits. So Panis now takes the lead from David Coulthard and Nigel Mansell. But will it be Martini and then Mansell, because Martini alongside already slightly ahead before the first corner, and Martini up to 3rd place now because of the pit stops happening. And it is Olivier Panis on that 2-stop strategy leading at the moment. It'd be quite interesting if Panis got the runner-up spot. Wonder where he'll be going next season. Wonder where everybody else will be going next season. And to think, we already know that Ayrton Senna is retiring at the end of this season. And I think, with the current field, Eric Comas might also be retiring at the end of the season, as would Roland Ratzenberger. Ratzenberger just getting the 1 season in FF1M before moving to some sports car racing in this universe. The Panis has got probably another 4 or 5 laps before making his first of 2 pit stops. It looks like for the moment it's between Panis, Coulthard and Martini. I think because Martini's overtaken Mansell, and Maybe Mansell not in line for a race win, but could be on course for a podium finish if things go okay. Jean Lacey about to lap Jos Verstappen, so Tilsley not having a good race. I wonder if he's made 2 pit stops actually, because if you're lap down already, then might find out in a bit. Yeah, Verstappen's made 2 stops. So yeah, I think Verstappen's suffering from a mechanical drama somewhere during the first, maybe a second stint, if he'd made a pit stop scheduled and then had to come in to rectify an issue with the Tilsley. Tilsley not the most reliable package in the grid. We've had 7 confirmed retirements, and then 5 instances where Jos Verstappen and Johnny Herbert have not been running but still classified as they completed more than 90% race distance. Verstappen has 4 to Herbert's 1. And Coulthard catching Panis a little bit. I think that's because Coulthard has the lighter car. Coulthard probably 2 stopping, I reckon. But Martini definitely the quickest driver on circuit at the moment. Well, quickest out of the top 3, as Schumacher looking at Morbidelli for 6th place, going through the first few corners. That Andrew's very quick in a straight line, that Ferrari is particularly powerful. The shake and bake not too shabby either. Curva VIP, small lock-up from Morbidelli. I think he locked both fronts, actually. Is this going to give Schumacher a run going into parabolic at interior? Not usually an overtaking spot unless you're right up alongside on the inside, or the driver in front runs wide because the outside line is much less grip compared to the inside line. Through Orella, there's Morbidelli and Schumacher, and just in front it's Lacey. I think it's a lap for Verstappen that's in front, because Mansell is 0.6 seconds ahead. With the parabolic, Coulthard comes into the pits. Now, what sort of fuel load will the Scot take on? I'd be interested to know if this is a 2-stop strategy or if he's doing a long first followed by 3 short ones. Just currently watching that battle, and you can see the straight line speed. That is a lot of fuel on Coulthard's car, so he's on a 2-stop strategy. So this is now the opening of the 2 stoppers, and they must include Panis and Mansell. Benson making his way past Roland Ratzenberger, hopefully, through the first corner. Ratzenberger hanging on to that one. Mitchell's been very good in race trim. Lack of work support hasn't helped them in qualifying, but Damon Hill does have a fastest lap to his name this season, and that came at the Spanish Grand Prix. And yeah, Hill went from 17th to 3rd at Hockenheim. So yeah, Mitchell's good in race trim. As we look at Panis, race leader, and I think he's got another 3 laps before making a pit stop. If they're running until about 10 laps to go before making a pit stop. In terms of fuel. Lacey versus Mansell for 3rd place now. You see the straight line speed difference between the Mercedes-powered FR and the Renault-powered CBA. Mansell side by side through turn 2, but giving way. So Jean Lacey up to 3rd. Now he's going to try and set off after Martini. The gap is 6.1 seconds, but I think Lacey lost a second, roughly a second, in that battle against Mansell. Roland Ratzenberger coming into the pits. He's on a 2-stop strategy, as is Johnny Herbert. You can see in between those, it's Verstappen who is a lap down. Morbidelli 5th, Schumacher 6th now. These two not far behind Lacey and Mansell. Schumacher looking good if his car is reliable. There's 3 fastest laps to his name, and they were at Interlagos, Silverstone and Spa. Schumacher has also drawn the ire of, in particular, FJR, but also drawn the ire of... Who else has he drawn the ire of? He's drawn the ire of Mitchell, because they can see Verstappen trying to get out of the way, and Schumacher maybe just a bit too far back. And there's another back marker. It's a Goomba. I think it's Blundell. Oh, Morbidelli off! Morbidelli off! Spinning and nicely recovered, Gianni Morbidelli. So he's done something that nobody else has done so far. Spin at turn 1, but getting away with it. That's going to put you under pressure from David Coulthard now. And Comas running 7th now behind Gerhard Berger. So Berger's gained quite a lot out of the pit stop. Either that or Comas has lost out a fair bit. Comas lost out to Schumacher. Right, parabolic interior. Oh, that's Martini! Martini suffered a mechanical drama, so the chance of a victory gone. It's a gearbox problem. It seems to have seized up and just pitched him right into the barrier because he's stranded in the middle of the circuit with no front right wheel. We may see a replay. I think we are going to see the replay. So you can see pushing hard to try and catch Panis, but then the Andrew gearbox gives way and straight right into the barrier. So yeah, complete gearbox seizure. Maybe the drive shaft locked up. It always says transmission, but I usually liken it to a gearbox problem, but transmission can be anything from gearbox to drive shaft. Panis in the pits from the race lead, as Schumacher is putting Mansell under pressure down the main straight into the first corner. I think Mansell's due a pit stop soon, and he'll be needing it because his tyres are pretty old. But he's hanging on, is Mansell. So there is some straight line speed in that FJR. He's briefly up to second because Jean Alesi is now in the race lead thanks to the demise of Martini. I don't think Schumacher will be making an overtake going into parabolic interior because cars swing to the left at the exit of this kink that they're approaching and then it moves to the outside, and it's normally there. If you're too close, then trying to move around the outside doesn't really work. You can see the yellow flags, but this should be withdrawn now. Mansell just keeping his line in check going into Orella. And behind is Berger. I think he's trying to put a lap on Verstappen. And it is Mark Blundell in the Goomba ahead of these two. This could get a bit tricky if Blundell decides to let Mansell through here, but I think Mansell's safe. He's going to peel off to the right. There he goes, for the first 2 stops. Now, his strategy should come into play a little bit later on, once everyone starts making their second pit stops. And if new tyres work, then Mansell can actually use the speed advantage that new tyres give you in this part of the race in order to close the gap between himself and Schumacher. Out the pits. Behind Frentzen goes Mansell. So Frentzen 3 stopping, Mansell 2 stopping. Mansell's only got 1 more pit stop to make. Let's see where this strategy takes him. Cycling through the rest of the field, Tarquini in 15th. Blundell and Verstappen behind him. Tarquini has been particularly unreliable this season, largely his car. He's had just 3 finishes out of 10 attempts. He had a 10th at Monza last time out, which was not too bad. But his other finishes were 2 20th places at Interlagos and at Magny-Cours, and then all the rest, retirements. So it's been a tumultuous season for Gabrielli, who currently sits 21st in the Drivers' Championship, just 1 place ahead of Mark Blundell. Eric Comas in 4th, so he's trying to salvage Gajera honour. With 2 CBAs in the top 6, that would move them to 54 points. And Gajera would be on 81 if it stays like this, but we've still got 2/3 of the race still to go. That's Morbidelli trying to put a lap on Blundell, who is not making it easy. And Blundell now coming under pressure from Jos Verstappen. But Verstappen has to let through Olivier Panis. Now Blundell has got to let through Olivier Panis, and then both have got to let through David Coulthard in 7th place. So through Parabolica Interior, Blundell moves to his right to let Olivier Panis through on the left. The driving mark. And Blundell, at this circuit, actually got a podium in the 1991 race. That particular one won by Ayrton Senna, part of a Brazilian 1-2, with Nelson Piquet second in the FJR. That's Coulthard putting the lap on Verstappen, and then it will be Lundell's turn to let David Coulthard through. There's Frentzen in 8th, and there's Mansell in 9th. So this is Mansell's flying lap on new tyres. 1:11.5, that's pretty good. What sort of lap time is Schumacher doing at the moment? Because that's the key one to watch for Mansell. 1:11.5 for the 1988 champion. There's Schumacher, 5.9 seconds behind race leader Jean Lacey. And at the moment, Schumacher, his fastest lap is the fastest lap of the race, so 1:10.956. That was set towards the end of his first stint, maybe at the beginning of his second stint. Exiting the Parabolica goes Schumacher. And what is this lap time that he is on? Me in the 11s, 1:11.4, so pretty much the same pace as Mansell. So if Schumacher keeps up that, then he should be able to rejoin from his second pit stop ahead. Panis actually quicker at the moment. And Verstappen making the move on Blundell for 16th. There's enough straight line speed to move back to the racing line before the first corner. So Verstappen not in last. There's Frentzen, there's Mansell. And through the first couple of corners. I think Mansell's target, it should be Schumacher, but if Schumacher is lapping quicker, then Mansell may still move up to third once everyone in front makes more pit stops. But the one to look out for is Olivier Panis in 6th place at the moment, but on that 2-stop strategy. So Panis looking pretty good if his tyres hold out. It's the tyres that are the key factor in this race. At the moment, at the end of lap 30, onto lap 31, it is Jean Lacey in the race lead. He's lapping in the 1:11.9 bracket. Schumacher 1:11.5, so nearly half a second quicker on that lap. And the rest in the late 1:11s. Morbidelli was in the 1:12s. And then 7th place Coulthard. 3.8 seconds now behind Olivier Panis. Coulthard stopping back a little bit. I think Coulthard is 2-stopping as well, so not looking too bad for him either. Once it all shakes out, it should be Panis and Coulthard, and then depending on where Lacey, Schumacher, Berger and Comas will join after their first pit stops, we may see Mansell there. Who knows? Panis and Lacey, they're lapping at the same pace as each other, so yeah, it is looking good for Olivier Panis at the moment. Mansell 28 seconds behind race leader and 23 behind Schumacher, and not lapping quicker. I think Mansell could get 2 points in this race if things go his way. Still 40 laps to go, however. On board with Panis as he tries to close in on Gianni Morbidelli. 1:12.0 on that lap. And the speed of this CBA, 3:04. It's actually 4 kilometres an hour slower than Martini, and we're on board with Martini. The last time the speedo was up. But Andrew definitely have a car that's quicker in a straight line compared to CBA, but they also have a much less reliable car, it seems. Many retirements compared. CBA have only had the 4 retirements this season. One of those was an accident at Monza, and then I remember what happened to Panis. That was an engine failure for Panis. And then at Spain, Lacey, I think, crashed out. And at Monaco, I think Panis crashed out. So the CBA has been very reliable this season. And the Andrew have had 10 retirements. I didn't think it was that much. Well, now 11 with Martini out of the race. And who else? Jero have had 3 retirements. And they were all crashes, I think. 2 crashes for Senna and 1 for Comas. But they've had the most reliable car this season. Let's see Panis. I think he's making the move on Morbidelli into the first corner. Has he got enough of an overlap, or is Morbidelli going to try and hang on around the outside? Panis takes it. Panis up to 5th place. And he is lapping quicker than Jean Alesi, race leader. But Alesi will have the fresher tyres once he comes in for his second of 3 pit stops. So this is going to be an interesting race to see how it shakes out come the end of it. Where, who was it? I think it was Rubens Barrichello was retired so late in Spain that he was still classified. But proper retirements, it's 10 for Pedersen. Tornado have had 4 this season. FJR have had 7. And then Mitchell have had 5. Shake and Bake, they have had 7. And Willows have had 4, so they've been pretty reliable. Schumacher pits with an issue. Schumacher pitting with an issue, and the steering wheel says all sorts. Probably transmission, probably electrical. One of the two. It's electrical, so Schumacher's charge to win the race compromised a bit. So he's going to have to run the new tyres early in his second stint. I think it was during the pits within the next couple of laps anyway. So not a disaster, but certainly not ideal for Michael Schumacher. Morbidelli also into the pits. He's had enough of those tyres. He was one of the earlier ones to make the first pit stop. Martini was one of the earliest. Schumacher rejoins behind Nigel Mansell. Now that is critical. If it wasn't for that issue, then Schumacher would have rejoined in front of Nigel. So, yeah, that's Mansell's 2-stop strategy coming into play. And it's going to be a while before he pits. I think Frentzen is going to come into the pits. Not at the end of this lap, but I think at the end of the next lap. Gerhard Berger coming into the pits at the end of this lap, and lap 34. And exiting the S's goes Berger, and around the parabolic tight inside line. We'll drift a little bit to the outside before darting back to the inside line for the pit lane entrance. Haven't covered the rest of the retirements. I think they did Tilsley, which was 7 plus 5. Umber, the most unreliable team this season, unfortunately, with 12 retirements. But in this race, both of their cars are still running, so that's helpful. 5.8 seconds, very, very quick pit stop for Gerhard Berger, rejoining right in front of Schumacher. That is important. Gerhard Berger rejoining right in front of the electrically challenged Schumacher. And through turn 3 they go. But importantly for Berger, still behind Mansell. VIP, further VIP to be precise. Schumacher needs to get ahead of Gerhard Berger if he's going to resume his challenge for a race win, which is looking increasingly like it's going to belong to a CBA, but will it be Panis or will it be Alesi? Well, Alesi's starting another lap 36. He's steadily pulling away from Eric Comas now. Comas slipping into the clutches of Panis. Gap between those two, 1.5 seconds. As we continue to look at the battling Berger and Schumacher through the parabolica. Keep an eye on Frentzen and see if he makes a pit stop from 5th place. Yellow flags at the exit of Arela into Gancho. Oh, it's Morbidelli. The other Andrew's gone. To Gianni Morbidelli. Once again, both Andrews unreliable. And it's another gearbox problem. So, yeah, the gearbox is taking a pounding. That's the 4th consecutive double retirement. 2 failures to finish at Hockenheim, 2 at Spa, 2 at Monza, and now 2 at Estoril. I think we know which direction Andrew went in the quizzes. As we continue to watch Berger and Schumacher battling away for that 6th place. Just keep an eye on the gap between Mansell and Berger. 2.8 seconds at the moment, but if these two start squabbling, that's going to help Mansell. Schumacher's pit indicator is red, which means that his teammate Taki Inui is going to be pitting. Another pitter, Jean Alesi, race leader. And Comas coming into the pits at the end of the following lap. as Lacey takes on a new set of tyres, a fresh slug of elf fuel. I assume it's elf anyway. Renault's tended to run elf. 6.8 seconds. Out goes Lacey. So he rejoins fourth. Now we see Berger and Schumacher once again, but that straight line speed of the shake and bake, not great. And Berger now 1.2 seconds behind Mansell, so roughly half a second quicker compared to Nige. And this is the stage of the race where Mansell's tyres will be starting to struggle a little bit. He's got another 10 laps before he makes his second pit stop. Expect him to be coming into the pits at about lap 47, maybe lap 48 if he stretches it a bit. We've got another new battle for the race lead, but Comas is pitting at the end of this lap, so Panis will be taking the lead. Comas jink to the right, and watch Panis zoom past to take the lead of the race. Would take his second win of the season, but Lacey on new tyres. He'll surely be flying. And Coulthard 4.7 seconds off of Olivier race leader as Comas rejoins. Oh, somebody's gone off at the first couple of corners. Don't tell me it's Panis. It's not. It's Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert was nearly a lap down, and his Mugen engine has gone. And still, Schumacher can't get past Gerhard Berger. And that's certainly helping Nigel Mansell stay ahead. Mika Hakkinen coming into the pits at the end of this lap. So, Jean Lacey is 13 seconds behind Olivier Panis, race leader. Let's see how quickly that gap will shrink. As through Curva Parabolica Interior goes this trio, which consists of Mansell, the defending Berger, and Schumacher. And the more Berger defends, the more that helps Mansell stay ahead of these two, and the more it trashes Schumacher's strategy. But expect the grip from the Pedersen and the shake to be quite good compared to the FJI in front of Mansell. And let's see, Schumacher's got a better run this time. He's not that good in a straight line, and nearly contact between the two as the two go side by side through the first corner. I think Berger should have stayed ahead. Indeed he has. So yeah, Berger is doing pretty well to stay ahead of an increasingly frustrated Michael Schumacher, and maybe in a couple of laps' time, maybe on the next lap actually, Berger could do something about Mansell, and that will further frustrate the shake and bake driver. On board with the Austrian. Lacey took 0.6 out of Panis's lead on that particular lap. The gap now down to 12.4 seconds. Panis steadily pulling away from David Coulthard. I think Coulthard's next problem will probably be Jean Lacey. Give it another however many laps. It was 7.2 seconds last time out. And Coulthard losing half a second to Panis on that last lap. 5.7 seconds, and Lacey 6 seconds behind Coulthard. So, Lacey is well over a second, a lap quicker than David Coulthard. And there was another 0.6 quicker than Panis on that lap. And still, Schumacher cannot get past Gerhard Berger. And still, Mansell remaining ahead. Berger is driving quite defensively. Pedersens have tended to do that a little bit. They're particularly defensive at Monza, according to the Gajera team boss. They're a lot closer to Mansell this time. Not close enough to make the move into Parabolica Interior, but now it's Mansell's turn to start defending. And that's going to give Berger an opportunity going into the first corner at the start of the next lap. No defence this time from Mansell into Orella. Then Gancho. That was where Johnny Herbert crashed and damaged his front wing last season and costing himself a victory. Panis pulls away another 4/10 of a second on David Coulthard and Alesi. 5 seconds, so 1 second quicker that time. And here comes Berger, looking to try and get alongside Mansell. The straight line speed on these two is pretty good, but it's Berger who's got the overlap into the first corner. And Berger, off the track goes Berger. So he made the move and made an error. So that's let Schumacher off the hook. That was a clumsy one, but Schumacher's taken Mansell. So Schumacher, that has worked perfectly for the German as he moves up into 4th place. So you see Mansell, missed the apex a bit at 2, gets onto the curb, and Schumacher took advantage of that beautifully. So now the race takes another shift as Schumacher has been unleashed. They've lost a little bit of time on that particular lap, but he can reset his charge. So Gerhard Berger, now 6th place. And he's got Eric Kermas for company now. And meanwhile, Frentzen in 8th. In the middle of nowhere, actually. He's 13.1 seconds behind Kermas. He's 16.2 ahead of Mika Hakkinen. Roland Ratzenberger, 10th. And I think the last one on the lead lap, as Inui and Tarquini have both been lapped. Indeed they have. And then 3 more runners as Panis. That's too early. Panis coming into the pits to rectify an issue with the CBA. Gearbox problem. New steering wheel should solve that. He's taken on fuel to the end of the race. So that's made his task of winning the race more tricky. And he's rejoined. How much time has he lost, actually? That was a lot of time that he lost there. That shot his strategy. See, yeah, he's lost quite a lot of time, I have to say. He was very slow on the pit entry, so... right, okay. I think he was supposed to have retired from that race, but luckily he was so close to the pit entry and just about making it. So Panis, that was lucky. So that's changed the race quite dramatically now, I have to say, because David Coulthard now leads the race ahead of Jean Alesi, 4.5 seconds. Michael Schumacher third, 10.5 seconds behind Coulthard now. Ansel 4th, Berger 5th, Kermas 6th, and Panis, the unlucky Olivier Panis, now down to 7th place. Yeah, Panis's gearbox failed right at the pit entry, got stuck in 1st gear, but luckily he was close enough. Quick change of the steering wheel, and it seems to be okay. Now Gerhard Berger is under pressure from Eric Kermas. Kermas, I think on fresher tyres, is looking to try and overtake Gerhard Berger for 5th place. And that straight line speed, that is the Renault engine showing itself there. Good top speed, and Kermas up into 5th place ahead of Gerhard Berger, looking for some more points, looking to help out the Gajera Championship Teams Championship Challenge. Schumacher is absolutely flying. He's 5.5 seconds behind Jean Alesi, and he is not that far behind David Coulthard either. And Jean Alesi still catching up to Coulthard, race leader, who's 0.3 quicker in the first sector. How much quicker is he in the second sector? He's 2.4 down on Coulthard at the moment, so he's 0.8 quicker on this lap so far. And Schumacher 0.2 up on this lap compared to Alesi so far. I'm interested to see how big the gap is between Alesi and Schumacher. It's 1.8 between Coulthard and Alesi. And between Alesi and Schumacher, it is 5.2. So Ratzenberger's out. So that's both Mitchells out of the race, unfortunately. Jammed throttle seems to be the issue with the Mitchell. And Eric Kermas is flying as well, so having just overtaken Berger, he's now just 0.6 of a second behind the 2 stopping Nigel Mansell, whose tyres are getting more and more second-hand as his second stint is going along. Gerhard Berger, Comas is dragging Berger with him, so Gerhard Berger's still in the mix. That's Schumacher about to put a lap on his teammate Taki Inui. And Schumacher 2/10 quicker than Lacey on this lap so far. But Lacey, he should pretty much be right behind David Coulthard now. As through the S's goes the other two shake and bakes. And then Inui's not making it easy at all for Schumacher, but he's letting him through round the outside now. Lacey just half a second behind Coulthard. Eric Comas is looking to make a move on Nigel Mansell into first corner. It should be simple enough for Eric into turn one. He's got him. They're all lapping quicker than David Coulthard at the moment. Even Nigel Mansell was quicker than David Coulthard on that lap. As there's a battle for the lead now. Jean Lacey, David Coulthard. This is Lacey's time. If he's going to win his first race of the season. Doesn't have a lot of fuel left. In fact, it's got 18 laps, it was. So he's got another 8 laps before he makes his final pit stop, which is David Coulthard got. Through Arela go the two leaders. And if these two start holding each other up, that's going to help Schumacher close in on these two and make it a three-way battle for the race lead. Turning right at the Parabolica. Coulthard has got another 4 or 5 laps of fuel, but here comes Lacey about to make the move for the race lead as somebody has gone off. Coulthard hanging on round the outside at first corner, but there goes Lacey. Into the lead goes the Frenchman, and looking quite good, I have to say. I'd say somebody's gone off at Arela. I think it's Taki Inui who has suffered a blown Mercedes engine, and he's chosen a very difficult place to park. I think that's right at the entry of Gancho, actually. It's hugely awkward. Mansell's still ahead of Berger at the moment, but we've got a new favourite for the race leader now. It is Jean Lacey. Watching the yellow flag zone as they clear up the barbecued Taki Inui. Very awkwardly. And Coulthard didn't lose much time in that. And look at Schumacher. He's right up on these two now. It's going to be between Lacey and Schumacher for the race lead, I think. So, despite his earlier pit stop than usual, Schumacher is going like a rocket. And now he's going to challenge David Coulthard next. But we've seen the shake and make straight line speed has not been particularly good. And once again, Schumacher just can't get along into the first corner. But this is going to be a trickier one for Schumacher as Berger versus Mansell. Through the first couple of corners, Gerhard Berger takes 5th place. He's got about 6 more laps of fuel compared to Nigel, whereas Nigel will be pitting first out of himself and Berger. And Panis now 7th, Frentzen now 8th, 2 seconds behind Olivier Panis. So it's actually been quite a decent drive for Heinz-Harald Frentzen to be only 22 seconds off the race lead, but the unfortunate situation is he's still out of the points. We do have 13 runners left now, with the retirements kicking in. Those retirements: Inui, Ratzenberger, Herbert, Morbidelli, Martini. And then the remainder: Hill, Irvine, Barrichello and Senna, the first to retire from the race. Now let's see Schumacher once again. Getting up alongside pulling out of the slipstream quite early. And once again, no straight line speed in that shake and make. Can he outbrake? No, he can't. And that is helping Lacey tremendously. Into turn 3, and if Coulthard keeps holding up Everbull, has something happened to Berger? Yes, something happened to Berger. He's spun off at the first corner, just like Rubens Barrichello did. So that's helped Nigel Mansell out. And let's see, Berger missed the apex completely for the first corner, nowhere near. I think he thought he was in the Algarve. and just a series of spins, but they should be able to rejoin. In fact, here he comes, rejoining. Oh, that's difficult. Oh, not into the path of Frentzen. But Frentzen takes it. Up to 7th goes Heinz Harold. That could have been extremely dangerous. But luckily, no shunt. Now then, Eric Comas in 4th place, catching up to the battling duo for 2nd. The more they battle, the more it helps Alesi. With the S's, Coulthard, Schumacher. Coulthard were pitting first out of these two, but Schumacher doesn't have that much laps left of fuel left, and in fact Coulthard pitting now, so into the pits comes David Coulthard, and Schumacher were pitting within the next couple of laps. Now let's see how quick this pit stop is for the Scot, as Eric Comas is only 1.5 seconds behind Schumacher, but now Schumacher will once again be unleashed. And a 6.7 pit stop, 6.7 second pit stop for David Coulthard. Enough fuel to go to the end of the race. They can put in some decent laps as he rejoins right into the path of Heinz Harold Frentzen, so that's a crucial one for the Scot, as he's now holding up an FJR. And Nigel Mansell coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Here he is, in 4th place at the moment. Not too bad in 4th place, actually. I'm just keeping an eye on Olivier Panis, because he is only 21.8 seconds behind Alesi. That's within range, but his tyres will be absolutely ruined come the end of the race. But I do think that Panis has a shot of finishing 2nd, because the Shake and Bake has very little straight line speed. And in fact, Comas was only... he was a 10th quicker on that last lap, so Comas having an absolutely cracking race in the Gajera, certainly making up for the loss of Ayrton Senna. As Mansell pits from 4th place. That'll be enough fuel to the end of the race. And where's he going to rejoin? I think it should be somewhere in relation to... I have no idea, actually. Out of the pits comes Mansell. Nice bit of clear track, actually. 8th at the moment, ahead of Mika Hakkinen. But drivers still have to make pit stops, in fact. Oh, that was a wheel gone, and it's Martin Brundle. Ansel was very, very close to hitting that tyre. And another victim of turn 1, it seems. Boom. Into the barrier goes Brundle. That wheel bouncing on, and Mansell was lucky. Ansel was very lucky. And then the Tilsley coming through, and then Mika Hakkinen coming through as well. Race leader Jean Lacey, 4.4 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Due a pit stop soon, probably within the next 3 or 4 laps, I'd say. And he's noticed the gap between himself and Olivier Panis, and he's just starting to increase the pace. Once again, he's at 1 minute 12.1, but Schumacher is quicker. Schumacher is quicker on that lap. Took 3/10 out of Jean Lacey on that lap time, on that last lap. And Eric Comas, just 5.7 seconds behind Alesi. Panis, 22.4 seconds behind Alesi. 2/10 slower on that lap. And Coulthard in 5th place, 25.8. So once it all shakes out, it should be Alesi from Panis and Coulthard. As Berger takes Frentzen for 6th place. I think both have another pit stop to make, so that is a near enough genuine battle for what should be 7th place come the end of the race, because Mansell behind has made his final pit stop. I think Frentzen will be the first of the two to pit. So if he gets some good outlaps, we can get back ahead of Gerhard Berger. Comas running quite leanly. Well, quite close to the end of his tyre life and fuel cycle. So he'll be coming into the pits quite soon. Might well be at the end of the next lap. For the moment, he's not pitting. Keep an eye on that pit indicator, see if it goes yellow as he starts lap 52. Indeed it does. Schumacher took another 3/10 out of Alesi on that lap. Around in the first corner goes Eric Kermas, looking for another podium finish. Will he get it? It'll be tricky for him, but he's got a good chance of some more points. That will help Gajera's team's championship chances. Coulthard lapping quite well after his second pit stop. I think he's going to try and catch up to Panis. Both of those are going to the end of the race now. And Schumacher's also pitting. Schumacher also pitting at the end of this lap. It's going to be nip and tuck between Schumacher and Coulthard, I think. So I'd be quite interested to see these two pit stops from Schumacher and Kermas. Just a couple more corners to go before both these two come into the pits. Lacey going a few more laps before making his final pit stop. And to our left, but their right, goes Schumacher first, and then Eric Kermas second. Shake and Bake the second earliest pit box. FJR have the first pit box, since they're numbered 0 and 2. And Shake and Bake are numbered 3 and 4. 7.8 seconds is the pit stop for Schumacher as he goes down the pit lane. Now, where is Panis? Panis is ahead. Is Coulthard ahead as well? Yes, he is. So, Olivier Panis moving up to second, and Coulthard moving up to third for the moment. Schumacher down to fourth, Kermas down to fifth, Gerhard Berger sixth. And it seems as if, once Berger pits and Frentzen pits, that Mansell will then be running sixth place. So the two-stop strategy not really worked out well for Nigel, but he does have some points, maybe just 1 point on the cards. As through the parabolic interior goes Panis. Now then, this next pit stop is going to be the crucial one, and it's going to be Jean Alesi's. Is he pitting at the end of the next lap? David Coulthard sort of being let through, but yeah, being let through in an awkward place around the outside of Gancho of Gabriele Tarquini. No pit stop yet for Alesi, so he's got another couple of laps, so he's going to have the freshest of fresh tyres in the final stint to help him out. Now then, we saw earlier on that Schumacher really struggled to get close to David Coulthard. I wonder if the same thing's going to happen. He's intimidates Tarquini around turn 3. And Kermas there in 5th place, 2.6 seconds behind Schumacher. So he's lost a bit of ground compared to the Shake and Bake, either from a pit stop or Schumacher's new tyres and good race pace. But Aero seems to be helping him out here, but may get stuck behind Coulthard once again. And that would help Kermas catch up to Schumacher. Lap 55, we've only got 16 more laps to go. It's at the moment a CBA 1-2, Alesi ahead of Panis. David Coulthard third. There he is in between Panis and Schumacher. Panis is only a second ahead of Coulthard, and Schumacher just 9/10. And somebody coming into the pits. That's Frentzen, I think, coming into the pits. As through the first couple of corners. Indeed, it was Frentzen making his final pit stop, so he's left it quite late. That'll move Mansell up to 7th, and it should be 6th once Gerhard Berger comes in. And look how close it is between the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place car. Jean Alesi as Coulthard using the outside line and nearly having Schumacher come alongside him. Alesi coming into the pits at the end of this lap. So the crucial pit stop is about to happen. And if Panis, Coulthard and Schumacher start squabbling, then Alesi could quite easily rejoin in the lead as out of the Parabolica. Now let's see that straight line deficit that the Shake and Bake has. Pulls out slightly more alongside this time, so Schumacher could make this overtake work if he's brave on the brakes. Once again, Coulthard hanging on round the outside. This is going to be tricky for Michael Schumacher. Gerhard Berger coming into the pits. So that's moved Mansell back up to 6th place. I'll tell you what, if this lot starts squabbling, we could enjoy one heck of a scrap for 2nd place come the end of the race between Panis, Coulthard, Schumacher, Comas, possibly Mansell, possibly Frentzen, possibly Berger, as Panis now puts a lap on Mark Blundell. And Blundell, oh, it's shocked in front of Coulthard, and yeah, that was bad driving from Blundell, and that's let Comas up into 4th place. Blundell stranded in the gravel, deservedly. And that's let Schumacher up into 3rd place. And Alesi into the pits. So now this pit stop is happening. Jean Alesi into the pits from the race lead. It's on a new set of tyres. Can he rejoin ahead of Olivier Panis? 6 seconds. That's a good pit stop for the CBA. Panis not having exited the Parabolica at all. And is Alesi in the lead? He must be in the lead. Yeah, he goes. Jean Alesi in the lead as the race enters its final stint. Schumacher has taken Panis. Schumacher taking Panis for 2nd place. So the Shake and Bake straight line deficit is clearly not as bad. Not as bad as the against a Tornado anyway, but there's the run. And the Tornado must be a quick car in a straight line. So this transforms the race somewhat, but ultimately Alesi is in the best place to win. As through the curve of VIP goes Schumacher, now up to 2nd place. I will double check where he started on the grid, but it certainly wasn't in the top 10. So yeah, another fighting drive for Schumacher. And he's kept his nose clean this time, which, compared to some of the incidents he's had, is quite unusual. So it's 4 seconds now, the gap between Alesi and Schumacher. And Alesi taking advantage of the fact that Panis, Coulthard and Schumacher were squabbling for 2nd, but Mark Blundell has changed the complexion quite dramatically. So it is still 4 seconds as he exits the final sector to start lap number 58. And the top 6 separated by just 10.3 seconds. And that top 6 consists of Alesi, Schumacher, Panis, Comas, Coulthard and Mansell. Now, who is 7th? Because Frentzen pitted first out of himself and Berger. If Berger did put in some good laps, which he did, he's still 7th ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The two of them separated by just 1.5 seconds, and I'd expect Berger to pull away. Now we do have a battle for 3rd place now between Panis and Comas, and the Gajera straight line speed has been very solid this race, so I'm half expecting Comas to make an overtake stick on Olivier. And in terms of the team's championship battle, that will be important. Schumacher was 14th on the grid. Alesi was 6th on the grid, so that has been a solid effort from him. Panis was 4th on the grid. Comas was 2nd on the grid. Coulthard was 11th, so that's a decent drive. As alongside Panis comes Comas, French battle between 2 French engines. And it's Comas who moves up into 3rd, so looking on course for his 2nd consecutive podium finish. And that'll be quite an achievement for Eric. He's helped bring cheaper Renault engines. Still works, but the nationality helped, and that helped Gajera sign, that we're able to sign Ayrton Senna and help him to his 4th recorded championship. If we do end up going further back than 1986, then Senna might have 2 more opportunities to win championships. I'd personally like to see it go as far back as 1980, because that was when Alan Prost started racing in real life. And it'd be nice to see how many championships he can win, because yes, he has only won the 2 championships compared to Senna's 4, but still a decent career nonetheless. I think 1980 was also the start of Nigel Mansell's career in real life. We're going to have a battle for 4th because Panis is struggling now. Definitely struggling on those old tyres. Coulthard, look at the run he's got. 3:12 and 4th place for David Coulthard. Now, next is Nigel Mansell. Mansell could have a 5th place on the cards. There he is. To be honest, it's been a solid race from the top 6. I mean, Panis unlucky to suffer a mechanical issue, which led to his early final pit stop, and then being forced to run a heavy fuel load and tyres which constantly degrade as the stint goes on. It's possibly may actually finish outside the points, unfortunately, for Olivier. Yeah, Nigel Mansell's first season was in 1980, so I think 1980 would be quite a good place to go back in time to, because that was Prost and Mansell's first season, but that's up to the AFIA to decide. We did have a 1950 race at Silverstone. Already Mansell caught up to Panis at the end of this lap. Panis is plummeting, he's tripping off constantly. Oh, Mansell, that's a bit bumpy, he's off! Mansell, no! Dearie me. He's fine. Is he fine? Oh, he hit the barrier, but... Dearie me. Let's see. It's a bit bumpy here. I don't think anything came off. No, nothing came off, but... Yeah, that seems to have ruptured something in the car. And that's going to move Gerhard Berger up into 6th place. So... Unlucky there for Mansell to suffer what looked like no damage. Here comes Berger. And then here comes Frentzen. But here is Alesi, race leader, 4.1 seconds ahead of Schumacher, and he's keeping that gap fairly constant. So it looks like Jean Alesi he can match Schumacher. And Comas, he's 5.2 seconds behind Schumacher now, so he's dropping back a little bit. But there's confirmation of Gerhard Berger moving up into 6th place. Thanks to Mansell's mistake. Through the first corner goes Alesi. I think Mansell has rejoined, but where is he rejoined? He's rejoined 8th place behind Frentzen. And Frentzen does actually have fresher tyres, so looks like Mansell will be remaining in 8th place come the end of the race, which would be a shame. To the right-hand kink. We now switch to Eric Comas, who has got David Coulthard lurking up to him. So Comas's 3rd place is not safe. We could be seeing the two go into battle with each other. Orella. Comas, Coulthard. Gap between those two, about 0.8 of a second. So Coulthard is just inching up to Eric at the moment. And this is what Gajera don't exactly need if they're going to consolidate their championship lead. I mean, they've got a pretty comfortable lead anyway, and the remaining 4 races, there's 64 points on offer, but it's unlikely that CVA can get maximum points in all races. You never know. And Panis, I think thanks to Mansell's error, could be remaining in 5th place come the end of the race. Gerhard Berger's quite a way back. He was some 33 seconds behind Alesi. Still 33 seconds behind Alesi as he starts his 63rd lap. It's 7/10 at the gap between Kermas and Coulthard, 6/10 as they cross the first sector point, which comes between turns 3 and 4. And we've seen how good the Tornado is in a straight line, so wouldn't put it past Coulthard to have a go at Kermas before the end of the race. Kermas was slightly quicker than Coulthard in the middle sector. Actually, if Coulthard does move up into third, then that'd be his first podium of the season, first career podium actually, in Canon, as we have done seasons later than this, actually on from 1996 all the way to 2018 will be the next one that will be going in the modern era. We do still have 1995 to cover, and then once the end of that season's done, we'll see where we go from there. But I'd quite like to see 1980 to 1985 for the moment. Soaring away as they usually do through VIP, and Coulthard right behind Kermas now. Won't make an overtake attempt into the parabolic interior. He'll make Kermas move to the middle before the approach to the corner. Now will Kermas do a little bit of defending into Orela? Nope, sticks to the racing line. And up into Gancho go the pair. Just 7 more laps to go now, and it is Jean Alesi who holds now a 5.4 second lead over Michael Schumacher. Alesi quite significantly quicker than Schumacher on that lap, but the battle for third now. Kermas versus Coulthard. That's pretty good straight line speed for the Gojira, but it's just about held on around the outside. This is going to be a nice little battle to the end of the race. Anis now dropping back from Coulthard, but is comfortably ahead of Gerhard Berger, so that's a safe enough 5th place for Olivier Panis. And I'll return in a moment. Enjoy the rest of the action for the moment. Back for the final few laps now, and got my little mascot with me as Alesi continues to edge away from Michael Schumacher now. Now 5.8 seconds, and still this battle for third between Kermas and Coulthard. Kermas very quick in a straight line, and Olivier Panis 22 seconds off the race-leading CBA to teammate John Lacey. Berger still holding on to 6th, and it's the two FJRs 7th and 8th. Should have been Mansell in 6th, but he made that mistake at the first corner a few laps ago. Now Coulthard coming alongside Kermas once again. Does he have enough of an overlap to outbrake the Frenchman into the first corner? It looks pretty good, and Coulthard has got it this time. David Coulthard moving up into 3rd place, and that is 1 less point for Gojira, and helpful for CBA's challenge. It'll be a 9-point swing if it ends up like this. And there's still 5 laps to go. Coulthard some 10 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, so that's a non-battle. And it's some 10 seconds ahead of Gerhard Berger as Gabriele Tarquini is about to go a lap down on Mansell. Mika Hakkinen 9th, Jos Verstappen 11th. I think that's basically the runners. I think Mark Blundell might still be running in 12th place. Has 4 more laps to go now. Jean Lacey hits the first apex of first corner very nicely and continues to stretch out his lead over Michael Schumacher. And Schumacher himself continuing to stretch over David Coulthard. So top 3 concertinaing, in fact the top 5 concertinaing out now, stretching like an accordion as the race enters its final few laps. And if it stays like this, CBA Racing will move to 55 points, and that'll be 26 behind Gajera if Comas remains in 4th place. And then what of the rest? Pedersen move up to 38 points, and that'll be 8 points ahead of Andrew Racing. Tornado would move up to 28 points. FJI will be routed to 21. Not the season they were hoping for, but at least for them that Mitchell will not be scoring points, but Eckenbeck could then be coming into the mix if Schumacher finishes 2nd. As that would then move them ahead of Mitchell on countback, because they'd have a 2nd place compared to Mitchell's none. And then the bottom 3 teams, Willows, would still remain on 1 point in 9th place, Hillsley 10th and Goomba 11th. Should stay that way come the end of the race. 2.5 laps to go now for Alesi. He'll be a hot ticket for next season if teams are looking to hire him. Or CBA might be wanted to keep him, who knows? There's the rest of the runners from 7th down to 12th in that very order, and first of them that has been lapped is Tarquini. 2 more laps to go, and I think we've got an array of drivers in a sequence, but neither of them are on the same lap as each other. Blundell is a lap behind Verstappen, who himself is a lap behind Mika Hakkinen. With VIP, and only 1.5 laps to go now. And if it stays like this, Alesi should move up into 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. Will move to 31 points. And Schumacher will move to 13 points and move ahead of Damon Hill. So that'll be up to 8th in the standings. Comas, where's he'll be? He'll be on 10 points. He'll be on 9 points. Coulthard will be on 9. And then Panis will be on 24 points with Berger up to 21. All that will be confirmed later on, but for the moment, Lacey on his last lap now. Schumacher 7.7 seconds off of the race leading CBA now. And David Coulthard 19.7 seconds off of the Lacey, and Comas 2 seconds off of David Coulthard. Then we should be seeing Panis and Berger coming through 5th and 6th shortly. And Panis now pretty much 10 seconds off of Eric Comas. He's only 4.5 seconds ahead of Berger now, but that's a safe gap. And then 7th and 8th, Frentzen and Mansell. So it looks like FJI will be going home pointless. Only a few more corners to go now, and there's one of them gone for Alesi. Here's 2 more, as he's about to approach the lapped Mika Hakkinen and Jos Verstappen. out of the final corner, and after his calamity of 1992, this is redemption in some ways for Lacey as he takes his first win of the season. Well deserved. Good result for Jean, and further back we'll be seeing Michael Schumacher coming home in second place, and that's his best result of the season. Second in the Shake and Bake. Third in the Tornado is David Coulthard, his first podium of the season. And that was a good result for the Scotsman. And fourth will be Eric Comas. More points for the Gajera driver. And then fifth and sixth should be Panis. Here comes Panis. And then behind Panis it should be Gerhard Berger. Look back. There he goes. So Gerhard Berger completing the top six. And then both FJRs come home 7th and 8th. But there's the happiest driver of the lot, Jean Lacey. And I think a worthy winner and worthy candidate for driver of the day. You can see a lapped Goomba of Mark Blundell. It could be Gabriele Tarquini. Both Goombas finished. So that will have some sort of tonic in what has been a pretty difficult season with one of the worst engines in the pack. A customer Yamaha.